Time Machine Blues. And my introduction is that I do mangas, anime, gaming content, and I basically go over them. Sometimes, many times, I do rundowns for each of them to see if they're worth playing or they're worth watching, so on and so forth. Typically, people do reviews of things. I don't do reviews. I generally do rundowns. Many times they're while I'm playing it to see if it's worth it and if it stacks up to things that are considered logical or illogical based on the synopsis of what is telling you and what you're actually given or what's offered to you. So that's basically what I do. So for the month of September, this is the Yojohan Time Machine Blues. Now, typically there were four actually anime that were released during September of 2022, but two of them were actually animes that were done in the past before and were under the OVA title. And the other one that was done, um, actually there was more like five. Two of them were OVAs, and the other one that was done was Drifting Home, and that was a PG anime. I wasn't going to do that because one, that's PG, that's meant for children. So from a logical point of view, a grown adult would not really enjoy or understand. Well, I would understand, but I would not enjoy it because it wasn't made for adults. It was made for kids. Not even for teenagers. It was made for children. It's under the PG rating and GPG rating. So it's something that you should watch with family, but it's not something that someone like or most people who are moviegoers wouldn't want to watch. So I didn't do that one either. And I didn't do the OVA for Bastard Dark Schneider because that was done back in June of 2022, the anime. So it's not new at all. And I didn't do the Tunnels of Time, Tunnel to Summer, Exit of the Goodbyes, because that hasn't been released in the US yet, even though it's been out in September in Japan, for reasons that could be simply, not copyright, but more exporting and importing time delays. Or it could be something other factor I'm not thinking about. And then the other one was the Cyberpunk and Edgar Runners, um, which I refused to do because Cyberpunk game was terrible. Terrible to the point of it was bugged out all like half of my playthrough all the time that I completely gave up on that game. I have not finished that game yet, even because of that. I'll wait till next year to see if they fully touch up that game and decide to complete that game by next year. So anything cyberpunk related just makes me get angry and upset that I even purchased that game to begin with. So if it has the cyberpunk name attached to it, I'm already going the other direction. So because of that, so I don't want to support anything that has cyberpunk name on it. That's not me being prejudiced. That's simply them pissing me off with regards to the game. I don't want to be reminded of them pissing me off. So the only one left out of all these, the one that was meant for kids, the one that was released in June, the other OVA one that was released in the earlier year, and of course the uh, what was it? Token Rambu hasn't been released yet for September. Even though Tokyo and Rambo series have been going on for quite some time, so I can't get in hold with that one either. So the only one that was left was Johan Time Machine Blues, which is an ONA that's continually going on right now. And to be honest with you, I only need this anime. And I'm kind of glad that I only need this anime and only have to review this anime because that's all I need for September. This is an original art, or should I call it a different type of genre art, books. It was released in a book format, a light novel format, back in the early 2000s, and then an anime was made in 2010 to represent that light novel, and they got a lot of acclaim awards and so on and so forth. It's somewhat surrealistic type of anime mixed in with a type of Art Deco style. And of course, I love the anime Yuri Deco, so I automatically jumped onto it. And then I saw the factor that it was split into two sections. A section that represent classical Edo period, and classical Meiji era mixed with modern styles. So it was two factors. It was the factor of modern day art, and it was the factor of Edo style art. So those two factors were placed into the equation when designing this anime. So those two things are full bloom. Moving forward, I then dive deeper into the story and find out where it came from, who were the voice actors, so on and so forth. And the main character is Watashi, and the secondary character is Akashi, and the third character is Ozu. So those are the main players of this anime. And moving forward, there are other secondary characters as well, such as Satoru and Ryouko and Masaki and um, Aijima or something like that. A guy named Aijima. These are all supporting characters. And the director of this animation is called Shoujo Natsumi or Shinjo Natsumi. So this anime is called Yojohan Time Machine Blues, which is came from the adaptation of the light novel of Tatami's Galaxy um, light novel, and it's all about bedroom, or how could you call it, dormitory slash apartment room, um, and the different crazy alternate parallel worlds type of circumstances that were happening all at the same time. Now, this story can specifically be a separate section in a parallel world that has to do with Time Machine. All those other stories were of are also of parallel worlds of time traveling, and events that were happening in those events at those locations were specific to those ones. But this one is specifically about the time machine and traveling with the time machine. Now, I could be wrong, and they could all be individually different, or they could all be the same and related to each other in a certain degree. And the only thing that has changed is the setup of the story from the ones that was released in 2010 and from the light novel in 2004 and to where we are right now for this ONA back in 2022. So I'm moving forward. What you're seeing right here is the main protagonist, Watashi, explaining. I should say one other thing though. The original light novel had a narrator who was talking about his travels through time and parallel worlds to see how his life would be better if it wasn't the way he wanted to be, or how it didn't turn out the way he thought it was going to be. So he's able to use time travel machine to go to different parallel worlds to see the various different type of outcomes based on his life and the things he achieved and didn't achieve, how it would turn out. So that said, in this anime, it's presumed that Watashi is the one that's time traveling, because he's the narrator of the very first episode of this ONA. And this little scene right here is him believing that during the summer period, he's supposed to enjoy the nice comforts of summer and go to carnivals, fairs, so on and so forth, but instead enjoying himself with his hubby, and his hubby is supposed to be represented by Akashi. At least that's his fantasy, having a nice little girls get together, girl boyfriend thing with this girl Akashi, who is not interested in him whatsoever. But that's his idea of ideal summer. But it turns out that's not the case. It turns out the case is it's a hot, dreary summer day in Kyoto, and this rural area of Kyoto. And so he's not at any fair, or he's not at the beach or anything. He's just walking through the hot summer days of city life or rural area life. And he's carrying in his arm, and it's not shown here, some cleaning towels and some disinfectant, I believe, and a bucket, or a bath, like a bath bucket or a square bucket for cleaning. So that will come in later. But he's explaining how the days of this actually summer is so hot, it's like the Sahara. And it's so hot and so dreary in Japan that he's sweating, and he can't even take it anymore. And I love the art style of this anime, equal to that of the art style of Yuri Deco, and the narration in it to explain all this at the very introduction of the anime. So, just to give a good, clear definition of what my actual rating for this game would be, I mean, for this anime um, would be a 9.8. Now, 9.8 is simply what I rated based on my own personal expertise. You could rate it whatever you want, but I gave it a 9.8. In all truth, this is a 10 out of 10, but it did have its faults. That's why I dropped it to a 9.8. But those faults were very small. I only found like three most. Two, to be honest with you, because the third could be considered part of the whole art style of the anime. And you can't be picky on art style, especially surrealistic art style, because it could be actually intended. You saying it's not so doesn't make it not so. That's just you what you believe. Um, you can't get into the head of someone and say this is what the director intended, or you can't get in the head of someone and say this is what the director didn't intend, because you don't know. So you have to leave it at that and consider that he did, rather than say he didn't, because you will really look foolish more on the end of not being the case than on the end of it being the case. Because most of the times, directors actually intend to do certain things, or it's an happy accident. So it turned out to be exactly what they wanted to, or not what they wanted to, but it turns out to be the better of the case anyway. So it always goes into the right. So in this little art style right here, you will see this throughout the anime as you proceed forward. So at 3 points in this anime, the art style has changed, or will change. It will change to its current art style that you will see right here to represent showing a type of mentality in the head of the actual characters. And then it will change to this animation style right here to show the current situation and the current art style. And these art styles are two very distinct art styles. This is more like the Deco art style, and this is the more like the Meiji era art style, where it's more like Archie line styles, or mixed in with modern line style. So we have modern art and we have like Edo type art in here, and then we have more like Deco style art in here. So we have three different art styles. Modern art mixed with kind of classical um, Edo style art, paintings on walls or drawings on walls, or on sheet racks. And then you have the Deco style stuff. So right here you have this, and then moving forward, after he explained his little heated situation of the very hot days in Kyoto of that summer, he then went into showing where he lives and why this place is called Tatami, why his little apartment area is called a tatami, because that's specifically what these type of rooms or apartment places are called in Japan anyway. There are specific places, specific rooms and locations that people live in that are called tatami rooms. 4.5 size, four in long, 5 in width, of at least 4.5 in width, and then length could be something totally different. But yeah, they're meant to be very close, very enclosed room, and very compacted. So this whole story is about time machine within a compacted room area, within a compacted apartment living space, where people are so close to each other, they're right next door to each other, which is the same as in a regular apartment in an apartment building. But an apartment building has more breathing space, where this does not. And like this is the type of art style you'll see here. Now moving forward, you see a different type of shot, and this type of shot is a nice little tracking shot that started to happen, or nice little zoom out shot that started to happen at this location. So if you ever watch this anime, it takes some time on the shot to show him walking up the stairs, but the time it takes to show the shot is not convoluted. So it's not something that will take forever for it to show him walking up the stairs. It's just the director's style of doing the art that he wants to show you um, everything that's happening within anime based on the feeling and the emotion of the character. Not so much based on where it's showing how things are filmed, but mostly on how the characters feels with regards to what the characters are doing and the story itself. It's a hot summer day. I have to trek up these long stairs, and it seems like these stairs are going on forever, but I gotta go up the stairs. Thankfully, the director didn't dwell on this for too long, but he's trying to give a sense of feeling towards the character and towards the situation that you're viewing to understand how things are playing out. Because him just showing this guy hot doesn't give as much power to his actual situation. This is just his exaggeration of what he's believing, but in real life, this is how he's actually feeling on the outside, or what you're actually seeing on the outside. And the best way to show that during the hot summer days that it's a panic or a trek is to show something that shows a trek, a hike up to a situation, and that would take long. At least that's one way of seeing it. At least that's the way I saw it. Then you saw him peeking around the corner, and once he peeked around the corner, it shows the other characters within this anime. And these characters are all fluffy characters. Um, there are there's four that's shown here, but typically there are actually five characters that are shown here. So we only see four right here, but there are actually five characters that are shown right here. So the first character on the left is Ozu. He's the guy wearing the yellow shirt right here and the brown pants. And he has somewhat of a fish style face. And you will see that later on. And then the second guy is Sitaro Higuchi. And he's a very strange character. But he's wearing his outfit, like his Edo outfit, to represent what he's actually doing for a living. He's an actor, so he typically wears his actor uniform, or at least that's what the story is portraying him as. Someone who's an actor that stays in character even when he's not being filmed. So he's wearing this based on his acting job, which you'll see later in the as I'll show these different images as you go through them, or should I say, as I go through them, I'll show you. So he has one specific feature to make his character seem more distinct than other, and that's his enormous chin. And then the third character, and he's supposed to be the fluffy light of the anime, the exaggeration of the anime. So there are certain specific characters that are in this anime that are going to be exaggerated. Chozo is going to be exaggerated. Um, Higuchi is going to be exaggerated, and then another character called uh, Aijima is going to be exaggerated, and maybe the Shabby guy is going to be exaggerated as well. Yeah, I would say the Shabby guy is going to be exaggerated. The Shabby young man is going to be exaggerated as well, because there are other characters that pop up later on as well. But for right now, I'm just going to focus on the three main exaggerated characters. But you can say this guy is going to be exaggerated as well, but he seems to be played off more as normal looking. So the third character shown here is a girl called Ryouko. And what Ryouko is, she's a dental hygienist. She's not one of the actors. Ozu is an actor that's part of this whole little band of merry men here. And Higuchi is one of the actors in the play that they're doing. And Mr. Conceited here, a handsome boy, is also one of the actors within the play that's going on in this anime. And his name is Masaki, or Josaki, or Jougasaki, or Jougasaki. I guess you could call him Jougasaki, or because he comes across as that when I say his word, like I guess in proper Japanese, and it's Jougasaki, or Ogasaki, if you want to call him Masaki. So his first name is Ogasaki, his last name is Masaki, but he's the conceited guy of the group, you know, the one that's trying to be the male lead, or basically he's supposed to be the male lead of the the story that they're telling within this anime. And then the fourth character is going to be a girl called um, Asashi, and Asashi is the director of the play or of the story of the film that they're making. Now, Asashi is the girl, Asashi here, wearing the blue, is represented by, I believe, a famous Japanese actor called Maya Sakamoto, and she's very well known. And if you look up her credits of her work on IMDb, you'll see a lot of stuff that she did is great. But for right now in this anime, she's representing Asashi, and Asashi is like a young female director that's part of uh, a high school or a college. It was never defined. I guess it's a high school film club, and she's a aspiring director, and she hires a group of professionals. I believe this is more like a college. It's more like college director, a young college director, because I don't believe any of these people are actually teenagers. I believe they're all supposed to be young college. He's supposed to be a young college man. She's supposed to be a young college woman, and before they go off into the working world, they're doing what they're doing in college and hiring certain professionals within the industry to do their student film. So she's hired. She hired Ozu. She hired Agachi. I mean Higuchi. She hired Aijima. She hired Masaki, and she hired, I guess, a couple of others as well, supporting characters. And of course, Watashi is her assistant, so he's kind of like her assistant while she's filming, or her second AD or something like that. And everyone else is supporting, except for the dental hygienist, which is Ryouko over here. And what Ryouko, she's just a friend, a personal friend of Masaki and of Higuchi. Reasons why it doesn't explain it within the anime, but she is a personal friend of theirs. So she's the only person that does not fit. She just showed up on the film screen one day, and she started barking orders of how to keep your health and how to make your appearance look better, and she's kind of like an advisor, but she's not part of the whole film crew stuff. She's just personal friends of Masaki. So being the personal friends of Masaki, they always hang out and stuff. And of course, she hangs out sometimes with Higuchi, but it's mostly she hangs out with Masaki. They're probably from their old high school days, know each other, so they hang out every now and again. So she's probably fascinated with this film that Akashi is filming. So moving forward from that, you get to understand, and that this is all happening within the introduction of the anime, which is another fascinating thing. You get to have lots of exposition from the point of view of Watashi within just the first 5 minutes of the anime, before even the credits or the opening sequence pop up. So you get to know a little bit of something, exactly what is being introduced, what is being told, who the players are, and the main players of the anime that's going to be, and what is happening, and how it's going to play out throughout the anime. So this is simply what I'm speaking about, is simply the introduction of the anime so far. So here is the air conditioning unit. And it's the reason why our friend Watashi over here has brought the little cleaning resolve and the towels. He's here to clean the air conditioner, because during these hot days of summer, it's the only air conditioner within their location, within their little living quarters, that's working in his room. And of course, why is Asashi and Ozu and all these other people are in this room? Because Akashi and Watashi are friends. So being both of their friends, he allowed her, because he likes her, to use his apartment room as a good base of operations for them to plan out everything, get everything. So he has to have a nice little comfortable place for her to think of how she's going to plan certain things and do certain things. Technically, she doesn't have to be there. She could do it on her own, but he like invites her to her place every now and again, along with everyone else, to stay here so they could organize and have a place to stay. But he needs his air conditioning to work, and so that's the main reason why he's want his air conditioning to work, so that he can spend more time with Akashi while she's doing her thing, and learn more about her, so on and so forth. But once it's discovered that the air conditioning can only be operated by remote, things turn out for the worst, because for some reason no one within these crew or group of people know how to fix the air conditioner manually, or how to turn it on manually. This is not a manual operating air conditioning unit. This can only be operated remote control. So it's not like there you could turn a switch. It's a digital air conditioning unit. So you have to operate it by electronic device, which is his remote, and Mr. Genius Ozu spilled some Coke or some type of soda onto the remote, which damages the remote. Now, the air conditioning unit can no longer be used. And once that's damaged, ta 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 ta, we get to introduction of the anime. The first visuals, they pop up. The name of the anime pops up. You get to see different colors that are represented, very deco style, very classical style, very Brady Bunch style at the same time, as well as very Edo style, Charlie Brown style as well. Um, and why is this important? Because the remote control plays a huge factor in regards to solving certain things with regards to Time Machine as well. The remote control is going to be the main representative of how to test Time Machine, whether it's true that time works, whether it's true that time doesn't work. And they go about doing this in a very interesting way. And I'll proceed forward into past the introduction into the next scene. And the next scene directly after the intro shows Ozu here and of course Watashi lying on the mat, the tatami mat, in his room, in his apartment area, or his tatami room, lying on the mat, however you want to say it. Yeah, and this representation right here, this is in shadows. This is just pure sweat. So when you see Ozu lying here in pure sweat, the grayed out areas, or the dark brownish looking areas, that's just pure sweat right there. So that in itself is a nice, good designed choice that they put within the story of the anime to show at the angles, not just the angles themselves, but to show that um, very few, very not so often do I actually see this in the anime. Like usually when they have hot summer days, they will show the character just sweating and exhausted. Very few animes will actually go the deep route in showing the actual sweat of the characters on the mat or on the table. They will just show the character sweating and then their clothes drenched, but they never actually show the sweat on certain objects. Well, so I appreciate that when certain animes do that, and I actually like that when they actually show the more realism of how a hot day of summer is placed. And that's another reason why I like this anime, because it's a good representation of showing how these characters feel. And if you don't understand it, if you don't feel it, you have to express that feeling through visual presentation. And what's great, better visual presentation than a bunch of sweat that's on the floor that marks how your body form looks. So moving on from that, the main character, the main protagonist, Watashi, imagines himself talking about his air conditioning unit, how things were so good until Ozu damaged it, and how he would some days just go into his room just to go into his room to feel the air conditioning unit on him, and love that his apartment was probably the envy of the neighborhood, because not many people had working air conditioning during the summer. They were all struggling to get good air conditioning, and he was loving the fact and enjoying and relishing the fact that his air conditioning was cooling his room, and a lot of people were envying him for that. But now he's in the circumstances where he is head to head with Ozu, and they're both about to fight each other because Ozu damaged remote control. Now they're all in a terrible situation. He can't hang out with Akashi, and Ozu can't get the things he wants, like cool drinks and so on and so forth. So they're both angry at each other, and neither of them are wearing shirts because it's so hot. You don't even want to wear clothes. But obviously this is a PG-13 anime, so they won't have characters wearing like pure underwear and stuff. That's kind of like more like rated R stuff. Plus it's meant for more high level teenagers, or anyone like 12 and going up can probably watch it, or 13 and going up can watch it. Not really meant for kids not underage, because there are certain subject matters that are questionable anyway, that kids shouldn't watch or wouldn't understand even if they did watch it. And then moving on from that, when they have their little argument there, you then start within, I would say, after the first 5 minutes of this anime, it then quickly picks up and start to going into, after, once they hit the 10-minute marker, it then starts to, not even, I believe once you get to the 8-minute marker, it starts to emphasize each character development, or each of the main characters in the anime, their development throughout the story. Now, I won't say complete development throughout the story, but you start to get little hiccups or little breadcrumbs of character development, slowly but surely pushing to the forefront. For instance, for Akashi right here, we already know that she's a director and she's directing the story. But we get to see her perform, and from Watashi's point of view, an explanation of narration. He gets to explain how she does her story and why she's doing her story. I mean her film, and where exactly she came from. So you get to know why she's doing it, where she came from, and how she's doing it, and how she feels about doing it, and the type of film that she's doing. So you get to understand her type of mentality with regards to what she wants. Now you can't tell that she's abrasive person, or you can't tell that she's a reckless person. You can't tell anything about her character in development yet. You could only discern, or not discern, you could only, I guess you could only pluck from and assume that you would know by plucking from the very things that the story is presented right here with regards to her direction and the school she come from. And then pluck those things you plucked, you could piece together exactly a type of character that she's supposed to represent, because you basically got a dry representation, a gray representation of what she was at the beginning. But as Watashi is explaining, you start to get an understanding of who she is proceeding forward. And then the next you go into this character, and this is the Aijima. Uh, Aijima. And Aijima is basically a guy that likes purple, and you'll see it throughout the anime. And he's not that interesting when it comes to, I would say, in contrast to other characters. Well, actually, in contrast to other characters, he is important. He's very important. He has this very nonchalant style about doing things, and he's very slick and sly at the same time. He's like a sly fox. He has a nonchalant way of doing things, and then he has the sly way of doing things. So he's like the very cunning, clever, sly, and fishy, but at the same time feels like he's a money grubber, but not at the same time not being a money grubber, if that makes any sense. It's like he gives the expression and behaviors of someone who's a money grubber and very shifty, but he's not interested in money whatsoever. He just gives off that feeling based on his performance and his behavior. And that's another thing with regards to not only exposition, but also with regards to character development. Each one of these characters, from Ozu, from Watashi, from Akashi, from Aijima, from Ryouko, from Masaki, and from Higuchi, they all have various different type of behaviors and mannerisms about them that make them distinguishingly different from each other. Some of them are somewhat like each other, but other of them are very, very different from each other. Like Aijima is nothing like Wakashi. They're very different in their behaviors. One see himself as more superior to Watashi, and Watashi knows that he feels like he's looking down on him. But at the same time, Watashi knows that this guy who's looking down on him is not as smart or bright as he is. So he's wondering why this person is looking down on him that way, simply because he has certain things and knows certain things more than he does. So it's like Watashi is struggling to try to become this man that he wants to be, and there are other men around him that's telling him that you don't have what it takes to be a man, and that's just like pisses him off or something. And it's not just against someone like Aijima. Aijima is like Watashi's rival. You would say that even though he has grudges, like arguments with Higuchi here, um, well, where's the, yeah, even though he has arguments with Higuchi right here, or should I say, not even here, I would say, where's that image? Yeah, even though he have argument with Ozu right here, I wouldn't say Ozu and him are rivals. I would say he just doesn't like being around Ozu. He feels uncomfortable being around Ozu because Ozu is annoying. However, there's a difference between annoying and straight out, you want them. You consider these people your rivals. Like Aijima is Watashi's rival. He considered him a pain in his ass, not because he's a pain in his ass like Ozu, but he's a pain in his ass because he considered him to be someone that's competing against him on his manhood level, someone that questions his manhood, and someone that questions his another man's manhood is someone that you consider more of a rival, rather than someone that just irritates you. And that goes the same for Mr. Masaki here, because Mr. Masaki and Mr. Aijima pisses him off to no ends. In fact, you could say both of them are Watashi's rivals. For the same reason he dislikes Aijima, is for the same reasons he dislikes Masaki. But more so, I believe it's more so towards Masaki than Aijima, because Masaki represents physically what Watashi can never be. He's physically strong, he's more handsome, so he has these things that Watashi wants, and realize Masaki doesn't deserve to be strong. Masaki doesn't deserve to be handsome. That he deserves more to be strong and handsome, because he would use those things for a better reason than selfish reasons for which Masaki uses those things for, just to be like to get girls or to get attention. And so he considered both Agachi and not Adachi, Aijima and Masaki to both be his rivals. I wonder why I said Adachi. Oh, that's from Persona 5. For some reason, I thought it was Persona 5. But moving forward, we get to the next scene. And the next scene comes with regards to filming. And, Akashi, she's filming the exact scenes. Now, we don't get a full name of Akashi's full name. We just know that she's called Akashi. Just like Watashi is called one singular name. Why? Is that just what the director wanted? Wanted his main characters to have singular names. And it's weird because all the main characters have singular names, but all the supporting characters, aside from Aijima, have two names. Or maybe that was the reason that all characters that have singular names are supposed to represent the most important characters within the anime. And everyone else that have secondary names aren't supposed to represent the most important. So apparently Aijima is going to be a very important factor going forward. So for right now, we see this little film going on right here. And this film going on right here is a duel between a supporting character, a supporting actor, fighting Ozu, who's dressed in black over here. You can't see him. But here's where the story starts to pick up and become more interesting. And that's a reason why I say this entire thing is spoiler filled. Or should I have said it from the very beginning? Well, I will say it, and it will be in the text with regards to this video. This whole thing is spoiler, is because since this is a rundown of this anime, the character all the way up here in this upper section, that's Ozu. So Ozu is to the far right over here, wearing the black Edo style outfit, or I'm not sure if it's Edo. Yeah, I think it might be Edo or Meiji. Whatever it is, they're doing a classical tale film of a classical television series or a classical movie, whatever it is, but they're wearing classical outfits. So Ozu is dressed up here in pure black, wearing this. But then Ozu's over here as well in this upper section right here, all the way up here. And so there are two Ozus. So she's filming this little scene going on here, and in the background, way in the background, is someone that's all the way on this balcony here. And this person all the way on this balcony here happens to be Ozu. So moving forward from that, we then see another scene. Now, we're going to get into the reason why Ozu pop up in the back soon. That obviously has to do something with the time machine. But since this is a rundown of the anime, I'm just here to explain how good this anime is, not to give it a review in total, or to just say certain things without spoiling it. This is a spoiler rundown of the entire thing, or basically telling you the entire story. So you go check it out for yourself, but not telling you every single thing in the story. So now we finally get some more exposition as well as even more character development. So for this one, the very next day, or should I say 2 days after that, Miss Ryouko pop up onto the scene to talk to her friends. Of course, her friend is Asaki and Higuchi, and she's obviously like I said before, she's the dental hygienist, so she's personal friend of both those guys. So she popped up one day on the set and started to talk to them about their hygiene and how they could, I don't know, do whatever they have to do to be better at their performance. So she started demanding things and ordering people around, and then she started giving out warm water to everyone to better their feeling and their hygiene habits with regards to working in an enclosed environment or open environment, depending on the scene location. So yeah, you get to understand a little bit of who this character is, what she is, and why she's even relevant in the story. Now, if I was to say, is she relevant in the story? I would say, out of every character in this anime so far, within the first 2 episodes of this anime, because this is an ongoing series that just started in September, I would say she's the least relevant of all the characters. Um, why she's here? She's probably just there to be a supporting character for the anime simply because sometimes there are people that show up and they're not supposed to be there, but they're associated with other people that are supposed to be there. And that's typically how boyfriends and girlfriends and friends of friends work. She's the friends of friends, and that's how life is. Sometimes you have people there at a location or around that you don't know who they are, but they stand out because they don't behave like the norm, or they don't look like the norm, or their character, their behavior is somewhat um, more exuberant than everybody else's. So I would say she shines more than other people in the background, like say the cameraman or the lighting and so on and so forth, sound and lighting, because she has more of a distinct characteristic about herself that makes her stand out more than even the people who are working on the film. So you get to know certain things about her, and possibly I would say she's the most poor character in the anime, but she might come in clutch towards the later aspects of the anime. Because why would you throw a character like this in the anime if you're not going to use that character? So she's going to play a major factor. She's going to play a somewhat major factor towards the second episode. But I believe she's the least of the most important characters in the anime so far. And then all of a sudden we get back to Akashi, and Akashi basically says, "Well, that's it. That's a wrap. I've made what I've made. The film is done. Everyone can go home now." Now everyone's surprised after they hear this. The filming is done. It was, I'm not sure exactly how long this filming was, but based on the surprise of everyone who she was filming, I would basically say she only filmed for about maybe a month or so. Most. Probably just 2 months, and then filming was done. And then basically she told everyone, it's fine. Filming might seem that it was short, but I'm going to do more work in the editing room than I am filming the movie or the series or whatever it is that she was filming. I believe it's a movie. So it could be that she actually filmed for about a month and she's going to double up that time in the editing room. So yeah, she's going to edit out everything that she didn't like and keep everything that she did like. So that's something that's to look forward to see the final product of her film. So I'm watching an anime of a film director that directed an anime, and in this film called Yojohan Yojohan or Yojohan Time Machine Blues. He's actually directing an anime about a character directing a movie, or he's actually directing a movie because this is kind of like a series, but it feels like a movie fleshed out into a series. So it's kind of like that's what he's doing. It's art in imitating life, imitating art. Because there are going to be situations like that in this anime as well, where you see things that are imitating what the director was trying to do in anime, and those things start to imitate what the character Akashi is actually doing as well. So it's very weirdy that way. That's why I say this is somewhat of a surrealistic type of anime, even though it doesn't come across as surrealistic at all. And then moving on from that, we go straight into. I mean, I love the fact that the characters' faces, they look so simple, look very like Charlie Brown, look very like Archie comic style, and because that's how art used to be back in the days, before modern art of, like say before 80s or before 90s or before 2000 art style started to go within animation and stuff. Things used to be very much um, uh, space fighters type animated style, or Disney type character designs, where you just have blotted eyes, or very Dick Tracy style, um, direct dotted eyes. So this is very classical. I think this is, you could take this all the way back to the first old school Japanese anime that used to be on television. They used to do it this way. So I guess from the point of view of this director, he could only go back so far to make something as closely related to how, what's the oldest type of anime style that he could get towards, like Edo or Meiji era type art style that you see on canvas with regards to characters. I believe this is the closest thing you would get with regards to that, or the other art style he implemented within this anime as well. So moving forward, he then, or should I say, Akashi then speaks to Watashi, um, and she says, "Well, there's something strange within what I filmed. And see, check my laptop. Look at the screen." And so they all looked at the screen and they saw something very strange. And that something very strange happens to be Mr. Ozu here. I would say, wait a minute. That's Ozu right over here. He's acting in his role right here. But that's him right here. He's wearing the same shirt, same design, his same little scaly looking face. And that's another thing I have to say with regards to this anime. When you see certain characters, they may look like they come from another planet or from another world or something, or you may think that they're aliens, or that cultures of humans and different species are mixed together. I believe the director of this anime, Mr. Shinjo, what he wanted to do, he wanted to express how the exaggerated form of a human body, or certain specific exaggerated forms of the human body, whether it has to do with time or whether it simply has to do with that person's specific physical features. Like if a person have narrow chin, he would draw, or the art style would emphasize narrow chin. Or if the person has a very long nose, the art style and what the character is supposed to look like would have a very long nose. Or if the person have a very prominent chin, the art style would show an exaggerated form of that prominent chin. Or if the person have like very beady eyes, or or pointy ears like Osu does, then the character represented within the anime will have pointy ears and beady eyes. And because that's the way that, I guess you could say, that's the way the directors see them as well as the characters within the anime see them as. Because that's why I say I like this anime. You're seeing things from the point of view of Watashi because he's a narrator. But are you really seeing things from the point of view of Watashi? Yes, you are. But at the same time, you're also seeing things from the point of view of the director. So you're seeing the point of view of two different type of people. Watashi sees Ozu like this type of creepy guy that has this type of look about him. But when Watashi is looking at him, Watashi might not actually see those physical features. The director see those what Watashi is thinking, and what Watashi thinks with regards to the appearance of this character, as expressed in the anime. The director basically is drawing, or the artist draws how that character looks, physical form, and we, the audience, are simply seeing how Watashi see these people through the director's eyes. And that's another reason why I like this anime, and I think that it's better than Yurideko and Like Horse Recoil. Now, moving forward, we go directly into after they see Ozu there, Mr. Genius Masaki, um, you know, try to be the manly man here, decide to go through the wall, not through the wall, but through a closet wall, and then found a bunch of garbage in the closet wall or a bunch of boxes. Watashi says, you're just messing up the place more. And he finds this device within that wall when he comes to visit Akashi to see how the video editing is going on. Of course, Akashi tells him it's going on fine, and then he went inside this closet wall and found this device hidden in this closet wall. Now, this is a pretty big device. That means that closet wall has to be pretty big. And now it doesn't have to be wide, but it has to be very long in order to fit this device in there. So I'm assuming that closet that's holding all those boxes is pretty big, because this is a pretty big device. Now, this device is the time machine itself. And what happened in order to test this device, and in fact, even before they tested, they basically all got together and looked at it and thought it was a very strange thing. They didn't really think much of it to begin with. I wouldn't either if I was to saw it. I would just think it's something crazy someone made up. But what they did found fascinating is that it had date, year, and the time that they could travel in order to. I guess you could have the date, the year, and the month. I believe they had the month on there as well. So the time you could travel to what month and what day, and what year as well, was basically on there. So very Back to the Future style thing going on there. And not only that did they discover, they found that it was actually well crafted as well. So they started to think that, well, this thing is not just some simple toy, because it doesn't feel like a simple toy, and it's very well designed for something that's supposed to be a toy. And not to mention, it's bizarre in shape, and why would someone create something like this to begin with and just put it in there? So the first thing Akashi thought, and she was the one that came up, that it was a time machine. And why she thought of this is because she's the director of the crew, and she basically want to see how she's going to be able to implement something like this into her film. At least that was where my head was going with regards to why Akashi automatically assumed it's a time machine. So they all come to the conclusion maybe Akashi's right, it's a time machine. But how would they go about testing to see if it's a time machine? None of them believe it's a time machine, but they all had fun and decided to use Ozu here, since he was the first one that decided to throw up his hands and say, I want to be part of it. I want to test it out. So they allowed him to test it out, and test it out right in front of him, to be honest with you. And then when he decided to go back one day in time, just to yesterday, he disappeared right in front of their eyes. And they didn't realize what happened. But then they quickly realized, well, no one could literally turn on a switch just like that and disappear. No one is that fast. Even if you were to flash, you weren't that fast. Because you would definitely see after image of the flashing before your eyes. This was more like a blink. Like a blink, like if you were to blink your eyes and the person was there, then they're not there. That's faster than flashing on or lights turning on. So that's weird. And eventually they all come to the conclusion that it's a real time machine. And Ozu basically say, well, when he got back from the test trials, they all still were in disbelief. They all knew it was a time machine, but they wanted to find out, well, how can I test out to see if Ozu was still telling the truth, if he's right, if this is really a time machine, is there a way to find out if this is true? So what Akashi did is she went back into her computer, looked up the computer, and based on what Ozu told them about going in the past and seeing himself in the past, doing his performance in the little edit play that they were going on, and being on that balcony, wearing the same uniform he's wearing, the same shirt that he's wearing, as shown in the image. They decided to look on the laptop and saw that what Ozu was saying and what what happened with the circumstance of them being too ozu is correct, and then they realize it actually is a time traveling device. So the only way for them to truly test out that it actually truly is a time traveling device is to find out a way to go back in time and to see if this is true. Because you would still disbelieve something is happening even if it is happening. Even if someone was to present you evidence, you would still not believe it. And the only way to truly test it is if you're able to go back and get the remote control so that the air conditioning wasn't broken due to the soda bottle. And so that's what they did. And so in this other scene, it shows the character Higuchi saying, well, we have a little issue here. And he breaks the fourth wall by looking into the screen. And it's hinted like he's actually looking directly into the screen, or it makes it look like he's looking directly into the screen. But if you look at it, this character is looking into the screen, and this character is looking into the screen, and this character is looking into the screen, but at the same time, it looks like they're looking off to the right, even though they're looking into the screen. So this is the first time that the fourth wall has been broken. And why this is happening is because the director wants to specifically emphasize another point to the viewer, that it's not like you're watching Deadpool and the characters specifically break the fourth wall. This is a direct intention by the director to show the fourth wall is being broken by making the characters turn around to look into the screen that he's looking at, to look at the main screen for which the viewing audience will be viewing the anime. So it was specifically made for them to turn around to look at the screen and to break the fourth wall. Not so much to break the fourth wall because that's part of their personality, but the fourth wall was broken simply because the confirmation, it was meant to be a confirmation of what they're going to be doing towards the viewing audience moving forward. They had to confirm to the viewing audience, or confirm to the director themselves, or director confirming to you by breaking the fourth wall what the story is going to be doing moving forward. So nothing this director does within this anime is simply because he does it for simply kicks and giggles. It's done with an intention. That's another reason why I like this anime. It's not like Deadpool, you just break the fourth wall to break the fourth wall. Everything is done with intention. So moving on from that, you get to see what Higuchi is saying with regards to certain events. You get to see that past art style being expressed and shown from Higuchi's point of view in his dream world of how things are going to play out. And everyone wearing Meiji era outfits. I believe these sleeve things right here, the shutter sleeves, are forgot the name of the Shinzengumi. So yeah, it might be right about Meiji era. So we go back to Higuchi, and we see him talking some more about Time Machine and how to go about solving things with regards to time and how to prove time. And another thing I like about this anime has so many things to like about it, so many things, and most of those things had to do with the expressive characters, how characters move, how characters behave. Like Higuchi's character has a lot of expression with regards to his actions, whether when he's smoking, whether he's moving his arms, his body movement, his chin. Everything he does is based on elaborate expressions. Like his hand movement is specifically made to be up into the screen to show us a sort of vibrant behavior towards how he wants to express himself. Nothing in this anime is done without vibrance when it comes to specific characters. Other characters, maybe like Ryouko, are going to do mundane things, but the expression characters are always going to be, well, expressing themselves more vibrantly. And that's another thing I like with regards to this anime. If you're looking at characters that are supposed to be vibrant, they're supposed to come across as vibrant. And I appreciate that. Another thing moving forward, so now that all the characters are trying to figure out a way to prove that time travel is possible. Another style within this anime is to show or to give to your viewing audience where they're actually supposed to be, where your headspace is supposed to be at right now. So the anime is forcing or is trying to tell you, not really forcing you, trying to tell you in the in the headspace of all the characters right now, this is where the story is going to be going. So by every single character thinking all at the same time, it's implied that you should also be thinking at the same time in order to get into the headspace of this is the moment where you have to think of how things are going to be moving forward. At least that's the way the director is trying to say. At this very point in time, in the story, at this very moment, everyone should be on the same wavelength with regards to what to do moving forward. And that's when the characters all get to the idea of using the remote control in order to test time. So the remote control wasn't something to factor in until now. So basically, that's how the remote control came into existing. And then at this very moment, directly afterwards, after they realize we're going to use the remote control, that's when the intro towards the second episode happens. So within the first 5 minutes, they discover about the time machine. They try to figure out how to test the time machine. Then they realize, well, testing the time machine, you can use the remote. And the intro towards the beginning of the second episode happens. And unlike, similar to the first episode, is somewhat different. You get to see different colors to represent each of the characters. Now, each of these colors in the background are specifically designed to represent the behaviors or the traits of these characters. So it's not done lightly, it's done intentionally. They're not put there to be just there. They're put there to show the type of character that the person is. And these colors all represent different type of mats. Japanese mats are used within living rooms or in homes and stuff, which is very, very aligned with the story itself of, Yojohan Time Machine Blues. So it's very appropriate for the living space because the mat's supposed to represent the type of character that the person is. For instance, Masaki is supposed to represent a very vibrant, colorful type of person that's a mixed bag of different colors. And that's exactly what he is. And then the character Akashi is probably the only one that I would say is kind of off, but at the same time is kind of on because she's very systematic. She's very mundane. Things are very calculated, and she can be very cold at the same time. But at the same time, everything is very systematic and symmetric, which is represented by everything being systematic and symmetric. These are all represented by eye lenses as well. Like this will be perfect matte for her, since it's like she could always look through a camera's eyes, and they're all representations of the lens eyes as well. So it's great for her, and it's very monotone to represent the type of character she is in behavior as well. And of course, this is to represent, this one to the far right is to represent Higuchi's behavior, Meiji. So this is more golden classic type of Edo period type design to represent Higuchi. And this type of color all the way to the lower right section is supposed to represent Ryouko's type of behavior. And then this one, this matte type of, is supposed to represent our boy here, Watashi's behavior, or at least his nature, which is everything is very symmetrical and boring and very cubicle design, because he sees himself as an average person and he wants to become a more colorful man and mature, but he finds himself very systematic and boxed in. So it represents what he feels. But the only one out of all this that I'm not too sure of, and I kind of I can't see 100%, and I can't get a good grasp of, is Ozu's. About the closest thing I could find out with regards to Ozu that makes sense is that these things kind of look like snails or eels. They're kind of synonymous to his appearance, but I I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, it could have used something else, but I don't see it. But every one of these are more practical and logical towards um, how the characters are feeling, especially for someone like Ryouko that represents different pots and rings. She's more like the type that would open a pot and see what she gets inside, you know, to open a bag of gold or something to see the type of riches, or to gamble on life or to enjoy life. Whatever you get, you get. That. So it kind of represents each of these things. Mats kind of represent what these characters are like. So that's another thing that they included into this anime that they didn't have to, but it's included in there. So there's a lot of art representation in this game. I mean, in this anime that you would not think of or thought that, oh, they're just throwing it in there to be colorful. But all these things have meaning. That's why I say this is a very good and very well crafted anime. And I don't need to review any other anime. I could just review this one. Now the next one I have next scene is Ozu here pulling a piece of cloth or a rag or something and waving it into the air. And he waves it into the air back and forth like it's a Kentucky Derby, you know, setting the horses off before they go off, or any type of race. So another thing that the director is trying to tell you, that this is the point, that it's a race against time type of thing, but not a race against time to outdo or to stop something. It's a race against time to say that, or a race with time, or a race in and of itself. Is to show that the story will now pick up much faster than it is from where it was before. The first episode was simply to introduce us and to show exactly the daily lives of these characters. The second episode was to do the same, but at the same time was to show that coming episode 3, 4, 5, things are going to be progressively moving faster. And this is a good representation of it, that it's going to be a race moving forward, that things are going to be picking up much faster. I would be very much surprised if he used this to show that it's going to be off to the races and no such thing happens. But so far, everything is happening exactly the way the director is doing it and playing out exactly the way the anime is playing. So what they, after to decide who going to go back into the past to check out the remote and to see and remove the remote so it doesn't get soaked by the Coca-Cola bottle. Um, certain people played rock, paper, scissors. So they all played rock, paper, scissors. And 3 characters won. Ozu won, Ryouko won, and Higuchi won, Mr. Sataru. And yeah, so all 3 of them are able to go back in time, because the other ones, Masaki, Watashi, and Akashi, they all lost, as well as Aijima. So they all lost, and only 3 people pulled out. I guess I'm not sure if it was rock or papers or scissors. I don't know. I believe it was rock. So all 3 of them went back in time, and they were remained. They stayed while they went back in time, and Mr. Shady guy or Shabby guy, and this is not the first time we're seeing him. We saw him before, I believe, or maybe this was the first time we're seeing him. Regardless, a Shabby guy came in, and he shows up, and he say, "Hi guys, how are you all doing? What are you doing standing there?" So on and so forth. Each of them say, "Well, who are you? We've never seen you before." It's like, yeah, I was here yesterday. I saw you guys yesterday, but you were busy doing something, so I didn't bother you." None of them remember him. So he started to explain, like, what's going on. They didn't actually ask him to explain what's going on, but based on what they were saying to each other, and that how they're waiting for their friends to come back, and he automatically kind of knew what they meant. So he said out loud, it's like, "Oh, so you're waiting for them to come back in time?" It's like, wait, we've never met you before. How you know that? So he started explaining the whole thing of how he knows about all this. He basically says the device that their friends used to go back in time was his device, and he traveled back here from the future, 25 years from the future, and they were all shocked. It was like, wait a minute, so you came here 25 years from the future? He said, "Yep." Say, well, why you look so shabby and shady, and you look like you're a homeless guy or something like that. So I had to fit in with current times and current dress codes and stuff. Plus, I'm not the type of character to pay attention to my physical appearance anyway. I was part of a group of, college students who were aspiring scientists, and we all came up with the idea of creating a time machine. And that time machine was simply created because two of our main scientist guys, our head alumni, were arguing back and forth with each other that time machine is impossible, and one was saying yes it is, and then Galileo is better than like Socrates and so on, and all this, and so it got into a whole drunk argument group thing, and they decided, you know what, in order to bury the hatchet, we're going to finally create a time machine. So the story starts to flash back into the past, and it goes back into the past, and it zooms out on Mr. Shabby guy here, and you find him in a room with a bunch of guys with all red faces. Their hands are all white, if you haven't noticed, but their faces are all red, and that's because in Japanese art, red face means that the person is drunk from drinking too much alcohol. So they're all drinking booze, too much beer, and they're all drunk as hell. Unfortunately for him, he's not drunk either. One, because he's under the age, or two, because he's not an alcoholic, or he's not into drinking beer whatsoever at all. Or the third could be he's a designated driver type thing. You need one guy to be sober while everybody else is drunk. But it's explained that he's basically the freshman of the group. So him not being the senior isn't allowed to drink heavily, or not allowed to drink at all. So maybe he's just drinking coffee or cola or whatever, but he's not drinking beer. So he's the only one that's sober. So I'm assuming he's under the age, and they're all above age. But from the point of view, from what beginning of the anime to now, these are all college students. So he's still, even though he's in college, he's not at the drinking age, or he's not at the age to be drinking yet. So they all came up with the idea of creating a time machine to settle and bury the hatchet. And so they came up with different formulas and different ways. And so they went to work, and it could have been days, or it could have been months, or one full year. And eventually, they created the time machine, or right here. And they all started to cry, as you see in the scene right here. And they finally did it. They finally made the time machine. And they're not sure if it's going to work, but based on their calculations and what they came up with, they're satisfied with what they have. So they believe 100% it'll work. They did trial and error, probably on, I don't know what, maybe an animal, or maybe insects, but they haven't done any trial and error with humans. So they're satisfied with their created technology. So for all I know, this could be the very first test run was with a human, which it would be totally psychotic for them to have done it with a human being. But then again, in order for those switches and those dials to be changed, they could have done it themselves by their hand, and then just pulled it, and then the person will just go back. But here's the thing: the moment you interact and pull down that switch, the person is out instantaneously. So if a person was standing away from it, put their body over and pull it, instantaneously that person's hand will go away, which means the rest of their body will also go away. So you won't be able to move your hands fast enough for it to just blink an eye. Your hand would have been gone, as well as the rest of you, because that's why it had to be someone that's inside the device, or around the device, or near the device, that to pull it, because whoever pulls it, regardless of who's within the vicinity of it or on the device, will get transported back in time. So you couldn't just turn it on like Back to the Future and then walk away. The moment it was switched on, it time traveled. So that was the time traveling. They watch him disappear, and there is one thing I gotta say with regards to the anime that I took a point off from, and that is the sofa. The sofa back here is the exact sofa. This sofa back here is the exact sofa, because it's the same room that they're in. It's the exact sofa that's in the past, 25 years in the past. And how I know this is because if you go back to the past, like if I go back to where they're showing the sofa, it's still the same green sofa. Now, here it is again. It's the same green sofa. So, unless the sofa was removed and a new green sofa was placed, because this isn't as green as the sofa in the future. But if I'm going all the way back, back, if I could find an area, like, see, it's the same sofa. This is a picture from earlier on at the very beginning of episode 1. The sofa is the same. So you telling me from 25 years from now, that sofa is still going to look the same? That's not how things work. So either they replace the sofa with a new sofa, and the sofa is a better looking sofa, or it was a discrepancy within the anime. They forgot about it. But they wouldn't forget such a minor detail. So the only thing that makes logical sense is that they just got a brand new green sofa. That's all. And they like the color of green, or whoever owned the building just put a new green sofa back there. At least that's what I'm assuming. Either that or it's the only screw up with regards to the anime. Moving forward from that, the last scene within episode 2 is both Akashi and Watashi looking at the door of um, Higuchi. And why they look at the door of Higuchi's own apartment room is because the shabby looking kid that was sent back in time, Mr. Shabby Shabster here, um, said that Higuchi is not from their time. Higuchi was from his time. He knew Higuchi 25 years into the future. He lives in their apartment building, and he knew him from way back then. So either Higuchi is not telling Watashi and Akashi and the rest of the crew something and hiding stuff from them, or Higuchi is not who he is anymore. He forgot his memories while time traveling. So it's basically saying that Higuchi is not who he is, or at least he's leading on everyone to believe he's not who he is, or pretending. So yeah, that's where the episode 2 ends off, and that's where the end of this anime rundown ends as well. Now, what score I would give it to it? I already stated the score I gave to this anime, a 9.8, which basically means it's a 10. It's a 10 out of 10, because when I score anime or anything, if the thing isn't a 9.8, it will never be a 10 out of 10. If it's a 9.7, it's a 9.7. Why? Because it only takes 3 points for me to take off from something to say that that's my bad, that I didn't factor in all that I could factor in. And I do things based on 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then I take a full 1 point off. So that's basically me finding at least 10 things to give it that full 1, and finding another 10 things to give it another 10 things to give it another 1. So that's 20 things I found just for it to be knocked off from 2 points to get it to a 9.8. So that's all I could find with regards to this anime. At least 20 things wrong with this anime. Just 20 things. I couldn't find anything beyond 20. And I'm not going to knock it for its art style. His art style is intentional. I'm not going to knock it for his character development. His character development were intentional. I'm not going to knock it for its ridiculous type of characters in it, because those were intentional as well. Or for its transitions and different wide shots or narrow shots, because those things were also intentional and purposely made with regards to the story and intended for you to view certain things from a certain angle. I could only knock it for the 20 things that I found within the anime. I'm not going to name all those off, but some of them were simply pacing issues. Other of them were simply not that interesting of characters. Like Ryouko is not that interesting a character, even though I believe she might play a bigger factor later on in the anime. And of course, certain situations might seem confusing to people who aren't paying attention. So The director didn't do a great job in organizing those things that well. Um, but what I'm trying to say is those issues that I found with regards to this anime didn't exceed 20. And I do things by point before I get them to a full one. So there were never more than 20 things that I found wrong with this anime, which means this is a 9.8. And like I said, if it's in the 9.8, it's actually a 10 out of 10 because those 20 things could simply be my personal begrudges towards the game. I mean, towards the anime. And they might actually have been intentional things placed within the anime simply in order to either dumb it down or to make it speed up. That's why I say if something is 9.8 and higher, it's actually a 10 out of 10. But if something is actually a 9.7 and higher, or a 9.7 and lower, then it's probably in the high nines. It's not a 10 out of 10. If someone says something is a 9.7 and it's a 10 out of 10, then they're not factoring the 9.8, 9.9, and of course, yeah, they're not factoring the 9.8 and the 9.9. So it can't be a 10 out of 10 if you have something at a 9.7. Because if you have something on 9.7, then that means that's your personal take on reducing that point to 9.7. That's your overall seeing of 9.7. And then you're saying the 10 out of 10 is what the viewing audience, your overall audience review is. But for me, it has to be much closer than that. Because my 9.8 is actually 10 points within just 1 point. And I couldn't find anything that would take it, exceed it, or let it fall deeper than that, deeper than 20 things I found that was wrong. So I know this is a 10 out of 10 anime, and I know anyone that says this is not a 10 out of 10 anime, whatever anime you bring my way, I could find 10 times more faults in that anime than in this anime. Oh, this anime is prettier than your anime. Well, this was meant to be this way. Or this anime has more juxtaposition than your anime. Well, this anime was meant to have less juxtaposition. Or this anime was meant to have more tracking shots than your anime. Well, this anime was meant to not emphasize on tracking shots and put more emphasis with regards to transition. There are certain things directors do specifically in their anime as well as in their games that is not intended to be placed within their anime as well as in their games because they don't find it necessary. Doesn't mean that they can't include it. It just means that if they include it, then the anime will become convoluted and not represent what the art director or the director was trying to convey. So that's why I reduced it to a 9.8 because that's his type of art style was his type of art style. So I had to take points off from that. But I'm not going to take it away from him at the same time. This anime deserved its award back in 2010. And it deserves to have even more awards moving forward for the 2022 ONA release. So maybe they touched up certain things and changed up certain things in certain ways. But it's still good now than it was back then when the light novel came out in 2004. So I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on in the near future and how the story is going to progress and how the story is going to end. It's very kooky. It's very quirky. It's very silly. But all this is meant to be seen that way. It's not meant to be an anime to be taken as a serious anime. It's meant to be an art piece anime. This is an art piece anime. Plain and simple. You cannot see it as something that's, well, this is not relevant. This is, how is this going to be helping society? How is watching an anime about time travel help society in any way? Well, how's baseball help society in any way? How is a bunch of guys playing baseball every year after year, help society move forward in any way? Or how is someone singing music to you help society in any way? Because they sing music to you and make you feel happy. If that's the job, is to make you happy, then it's the same apply to anime. Like, I laugh at people when their logic and say, well, art isn't useful to society in any way. It's like, well, then football isn't useful for society in any way, because if you're not going to be playing football, then you're just watching football. And if you're just watching football, then all you're doing is watching something. It's not helping you in any way, shape, or form. I laugh. I laugh at what certain people consider important, what they don't consider important. This is a very good anime, and this is a well-designed, crafted art piece, and this is something that has a great surrealistic slash modern style take on the original product that came out in 2004. I believe how this ends, I'll be satisfied with it. Very satisfied with it. Um, I believe it's more relevant than Yurideko does, even though Yurideko's political part of it is its anime is far beyond this. I believe this is better than Like Horse Recall, even though Like Horse Recall design of characters and movement of bodies and animation is far more superior than this could ever be. I believe this is just a combination of both what Like Horse Recall and Yurideko is, but this its emphasis is more within its story. So that's why I say this is better. Story is always going to be king when it comes to creating content. Um, the art style of something is simply something that's placed there for people who are artists, who are illustration or the designers. So if you're hired to be a designer or something, you won't be looking at the story. But when people watch movies, it's about the story and the characters. It's not about the art style. If you could get the story and the characters down, then people start looking at the other stuff. The stuff like the art style is simply for the people who are working it or trying to create that work. But for people who are just enjoying the content, it's typically the story and the characters. So, story and characters, this is done well. Very good, very interesting. I like it a lot, and I'm ending this off. Thankfully, it's not as long as my review for August one. It's only an hour and 20 minutes video, but yeah, that's all I got to say with regards to this. This is a very, very good anime, and it's an ONA that's continuing on right now, and it has its description within the behavior, within the trait, within the anime, within the narration, within the characters, within the classic style, within what it's representing, within its like callback to old school Mickey Mouse days, within callback to old school Japanese uh, Hideyoshi days, and with a callback to old school Archie Brown days, with a callback to classic directors Akira Kurosawa's art style as well represented in anime form, a callback to all sorts of art all the way, both modern and classical, all at the same time. This is a very good anime, and I didn't think much of it when I first saw it, but as I was going along, I realized it's way better than it is, and it's done way better, and it's much more funnier than it is, and its exposition is done quite nicely, not convoluted, but nice enough to explain to you what's going on, while at the same time allowing you to figure out certain things for yourself. But at the same time, you don't have to figure out anything. You just enjoy the ride. And that's what I love about this. You could choose to figure out what's going on for yourself by pausing your anime and see if it actually gets the outcome you want, or you could just go along for the ride. So I like it. I like where it's going. I like everything about it. It's very interesting, and it's very good, and it's off to the races, just like Ozu right here. And moving forward, the very last scene of the anime was um, Watashi, Akashi, and um, Aijima, and of course the Shabby boy looking down at the time machine and realizing Ryouko and Higuchi and Ozu were on the time machine anymore. They went back in time to where the remote control was, and they were supposed to get back to where they are in present day in order to test the theory. But they decided to stay back and have a fun little party and left a letter on the seat saying, "Come join the fun." So episode 3 will be about them joining the fun. So that's all I got to say about this. Very fun, very enjoying, very relaxing, and I'm actually having fun with this anime. I didn't think it was going to turn out good, but turning out the way I liked. I mean, I like it a lot. I even like the lighting and the shading and how certain things are placed within the anime, and how they do art of light versus dark in dark areas, and I like it. I like it. It's very classical, and at the same time, it still has a modern feel. It could work, and I think the director specifically did this because, like 20 years or even 25 years from now, or 10 years from now, it still hold up. I could still see it holding up. It will still hold up. Like 20 years, 15, 20 years, 10 years, whatever, it will still hold up. So yeah, like it better than La Costa Rica, like it better than Eurydeco. Not because not because of the interactivity of characters, not because of the political intrigue, but because the whole shebang, everything compressed together, is well done. Everything compressed together is well done. Where in like Costa Rica, half of everything is done well done, and then same as Eurydeco, half of everything is done well done. In here, everything was intentionally made. So like it. Thank you, and thank you for listening. And go check it out. It's I believe it's available on Crunchyroll right now, and if you don't have Crunchyroll, there are other resources online to watch this anime. But go check it out. Very good.